Greetings, sentient beings. This broadcast is not intended for children. There will be strong language and adult themes.
What is this theme tonight? Anyway, Odinsleep?
Yes. The Odinsleep is the 10 days between the winter solstice and when the new year begins. That the Norse AllFather has to recharge his powers before even he has enough strength to start pulling the world up out of the darkness.
It is the AllFather Odin?
Yeah.
Right, and why is he called AllFather?
Because he is the father of all the gods.
Right, okay. He's kind of like the Norse Zeus, I suppose. No, not Zeus.
Yeah, equivalent to it in their various pantheons.
Yeah, but it's the one time of the year that he sleeps.
I wouldn't mind being able to sleep just once a year.
I think you'd probably be pretty exhausted by November.
Yeah, I mean, if I only need one night.
What would you do with the extra time?
Oh, lots.
Yeah, mind you, I wouldn't, well, I mean, I would be happy just to sleep like normal people. Instead of that half the time I spend in bed, I'm lying there awake hoping to fall back to sleep.
I think yeah. When I can't sleep, if I've got enough energy, I'll go for an exercise. Otherwise, I'll usually just listen to a podcast, or if I'm being naughty, watch YouTube. Maybe even read a book if I've got the energy for that.
Yeah, my problem is if I get up and actually do anything, I know that I won't fall asleep for a couple of hours. And just usually I just don't have the time to string it out like that if I've got anything to do the next day.
I've been finding what's been helping me to get to sleep is running something in my head, like some story or whatever I've got on my mind, so I can focus on that. And I just kind of fall asleep.
Yeah, one of my favorite, when I'm feeling relaxed enough and my mind's not being too easily distracted, one of the ways I've enjoyed falling asleep through my life is sort of having a daydream of some scenario, usually romantic or something.
Yeah, something along those lines.
To just occupy my mind with.
Yeah.
Other things I've tried is boring myself to death by counting up in hexadecimal.
I've tried boring myself to sleep. It didn't work.
Well, that's the trick, is I need something that occupies enough of my mind that I don't start thinking of the projects I have to do, but doesn't actually require, a lot of real thought process. Because one of the traps I fall into is I'll start thinking about one of my projects, and I'll wind up start trying to do the math for it, figuring out, all the math for what size to cut the pieces and such. And then forget it, and there's no way I'm getting back to sleep. That's why I usually just leave a YouTube playlist running all night so that I can just, lay there and listen to something on the playlist for a while, and hopefully that'll get me back to sleep.
Yeah, like I said, I usually do the stories and stuff I'd be writing.
I have to avoid reading about or thinking about programming, because otherwise what can happen is I'll end up all night just thinking about programming ideas and whatnot.
I have been known to go into live streams and ask them to please be very boring.
I usually just masturbate until I can't even move anymore. I'm so tired.
Yeah, I used to use that one. It's not as easy as it used to be since I started the HRT.
My trick is waking up at 5:30 every morning when I have to go to work.
And that exhausts you and makes you exhausted when it's time to go to sleep.
I am not naturally a morning person.
Yeah,
Mornings, no.
that would require that I actually got into bed by 5:30.
Well, I mean, if I didn't have a job where I had to be there at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning,
Constantly
Doc,
getting
hey,
up
Beck.
constantly getting up at 5 in the morning would probably just make me feel sick after a
Yeah.
while.
well, you have to. The latest I go to bed on those nights is midnight.
Well, I try to get myself to bed like between midnight and 2, but yeah, a lot of times I don't get to bed until sunrise.
Ideally, I need to go to bed at 10. But from 4 till noon is my natural sleep cycle. So.
Yeah. Lately, I've had the annoying thing of just falling asleep too early in the evening for like an hour, and then I'm awake again for several hours.
Good evening to Doc and Beck.
Yep.
Hello.
Hey Beck, I saw your I don't know how recent it is, but a TikTok you did. Boy, is that beard filling out. Holy cow.
Oh, wait, ooh, it's -7 degrees.
Oh
wow.
yeah, Beck's got a nice beard now. I saw him on a live stream earlier in the week.
Good evening.
Last week, I guess it was.
Good evening, everyone. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video around.
I will be breaking away when the weather comes on the news.
Okay. I was looking at Weather Underground, and while they're still saying there's like a winter storm warning, it's mostly due to the wind chill and blowing and drifting snow. They're not saying anything about any significant snow on the way.
No, I haven't heard anything about fresh, but it is going to be awful nasty. I've been through a real life blizzard and a bunch of bears.
Oh yeah. Well, and I know the blowing and drifting snow can reduce visibility to virtually nothing, and sometimes they can't keep up with plowing the roads as fast as they keep drifting over.
Yeah, I'm sure glad the snow was the Arctic snow, the nice lightweight powdery stuff.
Yeah.
You could literally sweep it off the sidewalk.
Sorry to hear that, Doc Pearson. I got a stomach bug Monday and Tuesday.
How you feeling?
Near Doc Pearson.
Influenza. That's not nice.
Yeesh.
Hey, Athena.
Hey, Bree. Yeah, this is pretty much an open room, so anybody who wants to come in, just let me know. I'll send you a link if you haven't seen one.
Come on down.
You've got the zoomies, don't you?
Oh, kitty.
She wants to play. I want her not to be attacking my arm right now.
Yeah,
That's so selfish of you.
suffers too much from VHS, boring human syndrome. That's why I think that, after all the holiday stuff is done, I'm going to go to and find a companion for him. I think he needs somebody to play with to keep him busy. Find another kitty that's try to match his energy level.
Someone more interesting than a human.
Yeah, well, I don't have nearly enough time to play with him. And it's like in our old apartment, he was fine. And since we moved, he's actually become a lot more active than he used to be.
You ever give him catnip?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I give him catnip from time to time.
There's this
Any idea?
really cute
Any idea what?
around,
Sorry.
of a cat, one of the pumpkin color type cats, and it's sitting on its hind legs below this light in the kitchen, above the kitchen island, kind of this round globish light, and it can't reach the light, just sitting there, and it's obviously stoned to hell on catnip, and it's just like staring up at the lamp and reaching up with its arms and just kind of like slowly sweeping the air, like, I think I can touch it.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
I saw that one on Twitter earlier today.
Oh man, it's so darling.
Yeah, well, Athena's been highly active today. I don't know if that has something to do with the storm or.
I get to look after a cat in a couple of days, in a few days.
Oh.
Oh,
My parents are going to be looking after my sister's cat, but they're going away for a couple of days from their place, so I get to go to their place and take care of the cat. So I'm looking forward to that. I can't have animals in my apartment.
I'll be taking care of
Yeah.
my uncle's dog after Christmas.
Are you looking forward to that?
It's can be a bit exhausting. It's the morning stuff.
Right.
Oh, you gotta get up early in the morning to walk them.
Yeah. Well, at least the first day I don't have to worry about that. I just have to
Yeah.
go in the afternoon the first day, but the other days. So
Does the dog need 2 walks a day?
yeah. So probably next Thursday I won't be able to stay forever.
Yeah, that's why I like cats. They don't require walks.
My sister takes her cat for a walk because Alfie's an indoor cat. Although now he's getting older, Alfie doesn't need as many walks as he used to, or as long as walks anyway.
Well, and despite what people always say, cats really don't give a damn that I don't have a schedule.
No.
You know, they say that cats get used to having a very set schedule, and like, yeah, no. They really don't care. The one thing I tell everyone is never feed them during daylight hours. Otherwise, at the crack of dawn, they will wake you up to tell you it's time to eat. Only feed them after dark.
And never feed them after midnight. And don't get them wet.
Yeah, well, don't get them wet generally. I have thought that those rules were for cats originally. Of course, then you have some cats that really don't mind.
Yeah, I've known.
My Guapo always came home smelling like the pond in the park, so I know he went swimming almost every day.
yeah, some cats like water.
Yeah, I think he just was going after the fish.
And the few times I take a bath, I have Athena come and watch me like, what are you doing?
That is so disturbing.
It is. It's just... Sometimes cats are fascinated by humans' rituals with water.
Yep. Well, I think they are trying to figure out why you would willingly submit yourself to that.
Yeah, probably.
And we have Sir Little Wolf and TV Tube me joining. Hey, TV Tube, haven't seen you around much for a while.
And, well, I was hoping to be in Pennsylvania by now, but I didn't want to get stuck in Ohio, judging by the weather.
So you delayed your travel because of the storms?
Yeah, I didn't think I could make it in time.
I did see something. I thought it was a little overhyped, but some newscast claiming that the U.S. was getting hit with a once-in-a-lifetime storm.
Once in a generation.
It's spreading pretty much over the entire country. This one system and the influence from it down south.
Yeah, but I've seen that before.
I don't know. I watch weather pretty closely, and I've never seen something this fierce from this far north affecting south.
Well, I guess if they're calling it once in a generation, and if you consider a generation 20 years, maybe. It's just I've been around a lot longer than 20 years, so I've seen it a time or two.
We had a storm like this. Oh God, what was it? It was first year after we moved to the new house, so that would have been like 65, I think. it was a blizzard like this, except we got 2 feet of snow instead
Yes,
of just
really?
7 inches. And it was just brutal as fuck. It was like in late January, and it stayed cold like this for a whole week. And then in '77, when I lived in Milwaukee, there were 3 blizzards in 3 weeks. And by the end of the 3rd week, the city completely ran out of places to put snow, and was dumping it in the Lake Michigan like mad. They got to the point where they took forklifts out to cars on the streets and picked them up off the curb and took them to an empty lot and stacked them on top of each other.
Yep, I remember that from Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah, there was just no room. They had to do something bad. Oh God, my car started on fire that year. It was not a good winter.
Having been through the blizzard of '93, this is unimpressive as a blizzard.
Yeah, I have been just totally disappointed with how little snow we have gotten here for the entire. This is the 3rd winter I've been living here, and just yeah, it's been nothing. We've been way below what the average has been for what the last 20-year average was.
How much did you get from this storm?
Maybe 6 inches.
6 inches. I doubt there's even a dusting out there right now. There might be more overnight, but I'm farther south than you.
Yeah, but moving back to Minnesota, I was fully expecting that twice a year at least we would get a storm that would dump a foot in one day, and that hasn't happened since I've been back here.
Thank your lucky stars.
No.
I'm so glad I live in Australia where there's barely any snow.
We'll go down to Tasmania.
Or New Zealand.
Well, and the other thing that, people here keep saying, that, okay, it's great that we haven't had to deal with the snow, but I have to keep reminding them that, this is also why we've had a drought every summer. Because if we don't get that 3 feet of snow over the winter, it doesn't refill the aquifers in the spring. We depend on that spring runoff.
Wouldn't it be better if it was raining instead of snowing?
Well, when the snow begins to melt in the spring, it melts into the ground. I mean, the ground is still frozen, but it pools up and helps to thaw the ground because if it's liquid, it stays warmer than ice, and that's the farmers really suffer if there's not a good winter cover.
What I meant was like to refill the aquifers. Do you personally prefer it's snow that refills the aquifers, or would you prefer it was water that rain that refilled the aquifers?
If it's snow that's piled up and it melts gradually, like Jenny was saying, it soaks into the ground. If it just comes out as rain, most of it just runs off right into the river, and it doesn't really fill the ground aquifers.
Right, I see.
And the aquifers around the country are so depleted that it's going to take 100 years to get them back to where they should be.
Well, yeah, and the more the cities build up, the faster we're pumping it out.
Is there much irrigation?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of farmland around here, so a lot of it's pumped out for irrigating the fields.
Right, yeah.
That's one thing I have to say that we don't have around here in this area is a lot of irrigation. It all stays pretty good just by natural rain. It's been real dicey, a few years here and there.
Around here, you don't have to drive very far outside the field to see those, huge center point irrigation sprinklers.
Uh-huh. Yeah, those are kind of neat when you're flying across the country and look down and just all these perfect circles everywhere.
What's the water situation in Florida, Mage? Like, I imagine it's mainly rain that the water comes from rather than aquifers, wouldn't it be? Because it's so low.
Yeah, it's mostly rain.
Yeah. Well, Florida has such a high water table.
Yeah.
And actually, with the sea level rising, they're having a problem with the water table actually coming up higher than it used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Florida
is a
We're-
water table salty?
Yeah. We're slowly sinking.
Yep.
Florida has this really incredible geologic structure underneath of it that is just packed with caverns and underwater streams and things like this.
Karst landscape?
Say again?
Karst, Karst, like with limestone and stuff.
I really don't know what material it is. I'm going to assume that it's like maybe a lot of calciums and stuff from sea diatoms and things like that. Maybe it's lime. I just don't know.
Actually, Florida,
Okay.
it's a much more sandy soil.
Yeah.
There was this documentary that was on PBS about these guys who took on a project to. They had this theory about the connectivity of all these different underground pockets of water that they were all connected, and they ended up being able to scuba dive, coming up in various sinkholes along the way for like 50, 60, 70 miles, something like this. They're scuba diving. They're underneath like a Target store, just all over the place, and it was really incredible what they find down there. And
Cave diving?
Yeah, I've seen footage from some of that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's definitely an alien world under there.
it was pretty neat how they engineered the whole thing. They had a chase team above, and they had some kind of transmitters on themselves that would penetrate the ground, and so that they could figure out where the guys are and all this stuff. In this part of Minnesota, we have lots and lots of limestone structure that is very perforated with caverns and stuff. There's tourist type caves that people can go into around here, like in Harmony, Minnesota. There's a lot.
Yeah.
And in farmers' fields, you see these fields that are just soybeans all over the place, and then somewhere in the middle of it or somewhere there's this grouping of trees and bushes and stuff. And well, why don't you remove that stuff and plant there? It's because there's a sinkhole that drops down 30, 40, 50 feet.
Yeah, sinkholes can be a problem.
Cave. And it's really neat. You get some of them, you get trees actually growing out of the sinkhole, and it's pretty cool. But you fly up in the air in a small plane and stuff, and you see these sinkholes all over the place. And they find some 30-mile, 20, 30-mile long caves and stuff.
Yeah. Well, in the limestone and that the sinkholes, that whole geology is pretty much what you'll find all over the Great Lakes basins. Any of the states along the Great Lakes, you're going to find that kind of thing.
All right. Well, actually, I saw something on my phone I needed to check today because I think it was an alert for the wrong area.
What sort of alert?
It was an earthquake alert.
Oh.
We do occasionally get them here, but I don't think it was for Indiana.
Yeah. To the best of my knowledge, there's only been one in Minnesota in my lifetime. That was I'm not sure now. I want to say it was like 94 or something like that. At the time, it happened to be like the epicenter was like 3 miles from where I live, but it wasn't a really big one. It was enough that it made the plates on the shelf rattle, but it didn't really move anything. I think it was like a 5.1 on the Richter scale or something.
Athena, get down. Hey.
They just have like a 6.4 in Northern California, but I don't know exactly where north. I thought I heard somebody mention what's that county that grows a lot of pot just north of San Francisco.
All of them?
No, it starts with an M.
Most of California? I don't know.
No clue.
I just can't remember.
What a lot of people don't realize about the Richter scale is it's not just a progressive thing; it's a geometric progression.
Isn't it logarithmic?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Logarithmic.
Yep. A 7.0 is twice as powerful as a 6.0, and an 8.0 twice as powerful as a 7. And
all right. Somehow, I think the only people who are going to be concerned about the difference between geometric and logarithmic are math nerds.
Okay, well, you had me wondering if I had just used the wrong term for it.
Geometric and logarithmic would be equivalent, wouldn't it?
I don't know.
I know that, well, logarithmic's non-linear. I know that, but
I was going to say, at this point, I'm just happy not to have to take discrete structures over because, my God, that course sucked.
I didn't find it sucked. I didn't go well in it, but doing discrete maths I found interesting. Like, it's all, was the one you did got all about finite differences and stuff?
It was about proofs by induction mostly.
Oh, okay. I didn't do that. I mean, I did that in high school, but not uni. And yeah, so it's stuff like if k equals blah blah, then you got to show that k plus 1 equals blah blah.
That's a proof by induction.
Yeah, that's what I was just double checking.
Hey, Bob.
Truth tables. I hope to never see a Coke snowflake again.
They never really let me take much math in high school because the whole thing about showing your work. And
I mean, I kicked down.
A lot of it, was the dyslexia, which I didn't even have diagnosed until my third year of high school. But I can do the stuff in my head. When they made me try to show it all on paper, I get the wrong answers.
Oh, okay.
So they weren't happy with the fact that I got the right answers on the test, but I couldn't show it how I had done it.
Yeah.
I had troubles with that.
Is that was it just dyslexia or was it dyscalculia as well, or however you pronounce it?
Yeah, dyscalculia. At the time, I didn't even know the distinction. I think for me, it was mostly the dyslexia because, like I say, the problem was just when it was written down.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that was because of, flipping things. So I think it might have been things like getting 6s and 9s confused.
Yeah, I remember I was working in this math. Well, I would have gotten all the answers right if I was been working in subtraction instead of addition.
I used to think it was dyscalculia, then it turns out I just had really bad algebra teachers.
Yeah. Well, they never let me take anything beyond algebra. And they even dropped me back to a remedial algebra class in my freshman year.
Yeah.
Even though at the same time I was taking honors biology.
The issue is they don't really teach math well, and a lot of the math teachers know it's a problem, but they're stuck on tradition, and a lot of the parents are like, don't change this.
Yeah. But they could never explain how it was that I could handle an honors science course when I couldn't handle basic math.
Well, the reason I didn't do well in algebra but could do programming is because it's not the same type of math. And even the discrete math you require for programming is not what you would take in that discrete structures class. That's more for understanding the way computer scientists talk in their journals.
Mathematics and me should not be in the same room together. In high school, I was a math failure, but I got straight A's in geometry, and I got straight A's in biology. So there's a lot of things that in sciences that have nothing to do with mathematics.
Well, there's a lot of things that are there are a lot of things that are math that you don't realize are math until later.
Yep.
Well, I got straight A's in Fight Club, but we don't talk about that.
I think one of the things that the schools really need to focus on a lot more is, showing the practical applications of math in everyday life.
Mm. Yeah, just focusing on the really abstract makes it feel a bit pointless, even if you know it's going to be useful for a career, perhaps.
Yeah, but I mean, not just a career. The basic stuff, like if you're in the supermarket and there's, the same product in two different sizes, if you're trying to figure out the price per ounce, that's basic algebra.
In Australia, it is a legal requirement to have the price per unit on the price tag, which has been
I don't
really
know
good.
if it's a legal requirement here, but they'll usually have that. But two products side by side on the shelf don't necessarily have that in the same units. Like one will be the price per pound and one will be the price per ounce.
Yeah, it all has to be like per gram, or it's all standardized, fortunately, here.
Well, listen, remember, we're Americans and we'll measure in anything except the metric system.
I feel sorry for you.
Not all of us. Some of us prefer it.
But
I would
Americans are
much rather
insane.
that on metric.
Yeah,
but
they are.
It would have made my life so much easier not to have to deal with fractions of inches all these years.
Why anybody would want to work in fractions and inches when you can deal with everything in tens?
Yeah,
like, come on, just take the dot and move it over a couple.
That's just fractions in a different form.
Yeah,
well, but it's much easier to think about.
Yeah, when they are consistent fractions, it's much easier. The problem I was always having is multiplying 1/4 by 3/16.
Oh, God.
Oh, I have seen people who should have known better just like add the denominators together as fractions.
Oh, God.
Which is the denominator?
The one on the bottom.
Okay.
You've got to make the denominators the same and add the numerators on top.
The main issue with the way that we teach math is it turns people off to it.
Yeah, so, for doing, carpentry math, I always wound up having to convert everything into 16ths and then do the math and then figure out what's the lowest common denominator again.
That sounds smart.
Yeah, it's just too many extra steps. I mean, if it was all metric, all you got to do is move the decimal right or left.
Shift it. No calculation.
Yeah, and just working in metric, if you're doing it in millimeters instead of 16ths of an inch, it's just more accurate and it's easier.
Alternatively, we could have all switched to a base 2 or base 16.
Yeah.
And that way you can easily double things or to divide them by 2.
I actually designed a lot of my projects in metric just because it was easier to do the math. So I did the designs in metric, but then when I'm going to build them, I have to go back to using fractions just because, that was the units that the materials came in. Like a 2x4 is 1.5 inches thick.
Andrew, that doesn't sound like something a computer science major would promote at all.
No, it's completely objective. Nothing to do with interest in computers at all.
And it's about 36 millimeters.
Yep. Well, see, and there you get even more screwed up when you get into building materials. Because you wind up with a 2x4 that's 1.5 by 3.5. It's not 2x4.
No, it's not. What is it? 2 5/8 by 3 5/8 or something? No, 1 5/8 by 3 5/8.
No, it's usually 1.5 by 3.5 nominally. But again, it depends on the level of precision you need because wood, it can vary which mill it came from, how accurate they were about it.
How much, when it comes to wood, how much of a tolerance do you have to having things to account for expansion
That depends
with your
on the
measurement?
project you're doing and the species of the wood.
Okay, so it's
Because
complicated.
softwoods will actually expand and contract a lot more with temperatures and in humidity than hardwoods will.
Hmm.
So always build your floors out of steel.
I don't think that's the message that was coming out of that.
And when it's really cold, put your tongue on the floor.
Yeah.
I also don't think that was the message you were supposed to get out of that.
Yeah, well, I'm having problems with the cold because apparently when it gets much below freezing, these sliding doors on my van don't work.
Oh crap!
That
What
the
is it?
only way to get them open is to go from the inside and kick them open. I can't open them from the outside if it's too cold.
Your ceiling gasket is probably sticking. Go to the car store and get some. Actually, paste is better, but it's much more messy. Get either silicone paste or silicone spray, and shoot the gaskets. And you might have to repeat that once or twice during the winter, and it will help prevent them from sticking to the metal door jamb.
Well, depending on how cold it is, you might also need de-icer.
No, you should not be putting that on a gasket. It'll deteriorate it quite
Okay,
fast.
silicone spray?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that.
And if you have any paint products that you're going to be using, don't do the silicone anywhere near any paint ever. It destroys paint finish. It makes those little fish eyes in paint.
Will
how
silicone
do I
lube
spray it on the
substitute?
gasket without getting it on the paint?
No. If you're going to paint.
Oh, okay.
Liquid paint, spray paint,
Okay.
That's the thing. And actually, it's best not to just take a spray can and shoot it at this gasket. It's best to spray it on a rag and wipe it down, because you don't need it to be dripping. And for the first time you did it, I would do it on both the gasket and the ceiling surface.
So, what projects are we working on? I spent most of the day, since I'm stuck at home.
I'm
my
working
code and debug. Go ahead.
It's really fucking cold here. It was 20 below almost all day.
I was over a friend's house. I was exchanging gifts.
We're supposed to be a balmy 4 degrees tomorrow, below 0. So we're warmer by comparison.
Ew. Creepy. There's Jimmy Kimmel's doing some bit about Trump, and here's Trump in France with President Macron, whatever his name is, and it's just really creepy. He's manhandling his wife, Macron's wife and stuff, and it's just, oh my god. Oh,
What a surprise!
It
Yeah,
just gives
I
me
never
the
watched
creeps.
Jimmy Kimmel. I don't know. I guess his type of humor just never appealed to me.
I tend to not like him, but then again, I don't tend to watch too many American late shows.
But how can you not know how Game of Thrones ended?
I don't know how Game of Thrones began.
I'd rather forget how it ended.
Game of Thrones.
I never watched
It's a
a
shame
single episode of it, and apparently that was a good call.
I disagree. I think it's excellent up until about the 7th season.
Yeah,
Well,
past couple seasons.
It just seems that everybody is pissed off about how it ended. So
Yeah,
I
but
know I would really have been upset by that.
that's because of the producers dropping the ball. I mean,
Yeah.
they were sick of it and they were slack asses. They should have handed it off to someone else.
Yeah.
Well, and, I've had that happen with other shows. That was a show I was really enjoying and I was really getting into, and I thought it had great potential. And it's like they rushed the ending, or they just did something with the ending that made no sense, and it's like I felt the whole time I spent watching the show was wasted.
Yeah, I've heard this
I
House
don't
of
see it like that.
I've heard this House of Dragon is pretty good, but I've been hesitant to see it because of the ending of Game of Thrones.
The ending to Game of Thrones makes perfect sense. It just, by that time, everyone you wanted to win was dead.
And the ending they picked sucked and was stupid.
Yeah.
I don't have I'm able to still enjoy a show even if the ending sucks, because I'm happy to just, like with Neon Genesis Evangelion, I didn't like how they had the last 2 episodes of it ended. So when I watch it, I just don't watch the last 2 episodes and I skip to the end of Evangelion. And if I watched Game of Thrones again, I just watch it all up to the 6th season and then not watch anymore.
I'd watch the 7th season, but I'd skip the 8th.
Yeah,
I'd
one
skip
show I was
both.
really disappointed with was not a lot of people know about the show Pushing Daisies, but it's like, they went 2 seasons and it was all great, and you can tell they had a lot of character arcs that were still going, so you can tell that they were expecting to have a 3rd season, and then apparently it got canceled.
That really was a good show.
Yeah. So then it's like in the last 2 episodes, it's like they were rushing to wrap up like 8 different storylines in 2 episodes.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Last season of Lost was a shit show like that too.
I was seeing someone just like, I don't know if it was Disney itself, I don't think so, but they did the puppets from the Muppets, or not puppets from the Muppets, the old guys from the Muppets, I can't remember their names, just heckling them.
Statler and Waldorf?
Yes.
Yep.
What's the name of this show? Lost. Well, it certainly has the right name.
Yeah.
That's the problem with J.J. Abrams. He likes to set up a mystery, but he doesn't care about the ending of it.
Yeah, I watched the first season of Lost with my ex, and that was kind of when our relationship started falling apart, so I didn't really see beyond that.
What I'd like to see from J.J. Abrams, if he does a science fiction novel, is not to try to do Star Wars A New Hope over again.
Yes. Did the relationship break up because you was watching Lost?
No. Mostly it broke up because her kids had gotten to be old enough to take care of themselves, so I'd outlived my usefulness.
Damn. That's horrible. Lost was the first TV show that I was passionate enough about to actually want to buy the DVDs.
Over COVID, I wound up finding box sets of a couple of shows I liked, so I bought them, but I never got around to watching most of them.
Listen.
So,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, now I have a shelf full of just various series on DVDs that I still haven't watched.
Amazon
Which series are they? Sorry.
Well, one of them was Burn Notice, because I'd gotten like halfway through that, and then Netflix stopped carrying it.
Well, that was a great show too. I loved it.
Yeah, so I was like at the end of the 3rd season or something, and then I couldn't watch it anymore, so I never got to find out how that ended. And I found a complete box set of MASH.
Oh, Hulu has that.
I had that, even though that was a good chunk of change.
So
for all
didn't have enough room to keep it in your house. It was.
MASH, I think, is a series that they could remaster and re-release the originals. Don't make new MASH, but
yeah, that'd be a good idea.
I think there are a lot of references in it that people wouldn't get now because of the age of it, but yeah, for the most part, war doesn't change that much.
And you may just have to explain, hey, Corporal Kingler isn't trying to make any statement.
Yep.
Other than this just was a way to get out of the army at the time.
Has anyone watched Westworld?
No.
No.
No. I hear the first season was good, and the second season was trash.
And
First season was the best season, and although it was enjoyable, it wasn't anywhere near as good quality following on from that.
I am just going to say Amazon has some 2 series that could either be good or bad depending on how they do them. I think Fallout is going to turn out to be bad because Bethesda's insisting on doing something that isn't the original Fallout, which I think is what everyone wants to see from it.
Yeah, I hear The Witcher is basically falling apart.
I don't think there was much more they could do with that storyline. But
I did finish seeing Wednesday. That was actually a pretty decent series.
hey, Athena. You know,
I actually haven't watched anything new for a while. I've just been watching old stuff.
I hate how they have TV shows on for more seasons than they necessarily need to be. I understand the economic necessity for it, but I wish there was a way they could just have like compact, well-timed series instead of like just dragging things out as long as possible. Maybe have multiple compact series to make up for the lack of length of them.
It was something I had noticed like way back from shows in the 70s. That was a difference between the American and the British shows. That the British shows, it seemed that they pretty much had a set run planned when they started. And then they would end it at the end of that run.
Yeah, you'll find that a lot in anime as well.
Yeah, whereas
a lot more.
The American shows, either if it wasn't getting the ratings, they would cut it off abruptly and you'd never know how it ended. Or else, if it still had an audience, they would try to drag it out for several seasons longer than it was supposed to go, and everything would just fall apart gradually.
Well, there are so few TV series that actually have an ending. It's usually what you described, is that they just end it.
I think Babylon 5 was the first one that had it pre-planned.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the first one, but it did have a pre-
It goes back much further than Babylon 5.
Yep.
It was a little series called The Fugitive with David Jansen.
Listen, anything my dad watched doesn't count, unless it had planes.
It had trains, let's see, and there was a guy with one arm, and this one obsessed detective.
Planes or spaceships?
Spaceships.
Wait.
My dad used to watch a lot of World War II combat shows, and the late 70s, early 80s, Buck, Battlestar Galactica, and Buck Rogers.
Oh, good night, Doc.
Night, Doc.
Yes, did the poll say that you could be here?
The poll was only on if he should run a stream, not if he should be in one.
You see, the thing is, I actually plan on doing a stream regardless. I mean, shit! I forgot I was watching.
Okay, how many beers have you had so far?
I'm on number 6. I just forgot I had your show running. So I plan on running a show regardless. It's just I wanted to make a joke at Elon Musk's expense. You know how he's posting Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Yeah, he'll abide by the poll unless he disagrees with it.
That's what you should.
Yeah, Thank you, Ted. That's the joke. I mean,
Yeah.
Well,
If-
I was more worried about the good news, bad news joke.
the witch
That
joke.
the good news was Elon Musk was stepping down. The bad news is he was putting Jared Kushner in his place.
Yeah, I saw a joke of him putting Turd Cat in his place. Or
I
Cat
mean,
Turd.
Cat Turd would do better. I
Yeah.
think.
Athena, can you run Twitter?
Wow.
I still don't get why, even after all this Twitter stuff, Elon fanboys think he's some kind of genius.
Yeah.
Cult.
Yeah. I mean,
It
It
is a
doesn't
cult
matter what he
mentality
does,
that
they
their
will
leader
love
can
him.
do no wrong.
it's like Trump supporters and Trump. They will always love him.
For being independent individuals, you Americans sure like to follow people.
Yeah.
We are all individuals. Yes, we are all individuals.
Yes.
We're all different. I'm not.
I'm three different people.
Remember, you're
all?
different, just like everyone else.
Yeah. Shit, my mom was at least 7 different people.
I'm an emo kid, non-conforming as could be. You'd be non-conforming too if you look just like me.
I think I topped out at 7. I think I'm down to only about 3 or 4 now.
Beers? If so, you've lost tolerance.
I don't drink beer.
Yeah, no, I know.
I
I still appreciate your comments on the floops in the background.
I just have a glass of rum on Friday.
I think
Well, I'll often
Liquor.
I'll often have a mixed drink with whiskey, but
You drink-
I don't do it when I'm running a stream because if I get drunk, there has to be somebody who can boot me off.
Yeah.
And then you've got me who runs drunk streams fairly regularly.
Well,
drink a whiskey.
I did
I've
a
got a
couple of those
six-pack
about
chambered
4
in
or
the
5
fridge.
years ago, and I just kind of learned my lesson that I won't drink when I'm running it.
Do you drink a whiskey drink?
I drink a
Drink a
lager
lager
drink.
drink?
Trail.
Sorry,
Huh?
I don't even know why I'm remembering that terrible song.
Sings the songs that remind him of the best times.
You're talking Chumbawamba?
Yeah, tub thumping, baby. One-hit wonders.
I guess I don't know the song. It's not having any meaning to me.
Tub thumping. Come
I
on.
get knocked down, but I get up again.
Excuse me.
Pissing the night away.
I get
Your
knocked
life is.
down, but I get up again. Come on,
Don't-
you have to know.
Don't ruin Purple's life by letting them know about that song.
Oh, what else should I let Purple remain ignorant about, despite her being older than me? I mean, the Bloodhound Gang.
The Trump
Should I
administration.
let her remain innocent of that particular music group?
Listen,
The Bad Touch.
there are a
Well,
lot
see,
of
that-
Older than everybody.
Yeah, that's a big part of it is that I've never really paid much attention to whatever was popular music in any given decade.
and there's a lot of music that just sucks now.
Purple, have you heard of this really cool band called the Beatles?
But yes.
Well, sorry, Bill's Mo. But,
Hey, I got to meet Ringo Starr.
the thing I tried to send you apparently is saying it's undeliverable and it's going to get refunded.
Sorry, what you were sending to who?
I was saying to Bub there, I was trying to
Oh.
send them something and it's giving me a message saying it was undeliverable and it's going to give me a refund now.
Listen,
You know, I genuinely, I know what you're talking about. You messaged me about that a day or two ago. I have no idea what it is with the Postal Service and my address because I've been using it the vast majority of the time that I've been alive. But just now, in the last year or so, it's been having trouble.
I just want to point out my Steam wish list does not rely on Postal Service delivery.
Fair.
But then again,
Mate,
Yeah?
Well, I've noticed that
what?
Postal Service has gotten very picky lately about little things like, abbreviations and punctuation in the address.
Maybe see if you need to rewrite the address on your Amazon wish list.
Listen,
Yeah,
maybe-
well,
I
it's
may
like
have to.
a couple of times it has gotten annoyed that somebody abbreviated Saint as ST instead of spelling it out.
that's
Well,
like
I
a
mean, that I
standard.
kind of get because at least where I'm from, street is also ST. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't like to have to make contextual assumptions or anything like that.
Maybe the service has been more centralized so that there's less local knowledge.
Or, given that it's Christmas vacation for many schools right now, there are a lot of English teachers who are doing a job over the holidays.
Yeah.
Just to keep busy.
Yeah.
Could you pad out the implications of that, please? I'm not following.
They're being picky about punctuation and grammar.
Grammar Nazis. Okay. Yep.
Actually, Andrew, what you're saying about it being more centralized really is part of what's going on, because the post office has been consolidating and they've been closing local post offices.
Oh, crap.
So it used to be a couple of decades back that every zip code was actually a post office address, that there was one post office for every zip code. And they've been closing a lot of the neighborhood post offices. So now you've got, one post office that could be handling a dozen zip codes.
No, that's shitty.
So then it's starting to get confused if there are two similar street names in the same zip code.
I don't know.
Yep.
We have our own post office for a population of 900.
Yeah, well, there probably wasn't another one close enough by for them to close that one.
No, there's one in Rushford too with its own zip code, and one.
But see, if you've got a town with a single post office, it's usually okay. The ones that they've been closing tend to be that the cities that had multiple zip codes, that they used to have post offices in each neighborhood. Now they're closing down the neighborhood ones and only keeping the downtown one.
I think we still have two.
Mate, how do you like to, what sort of rum do you like to drink and how do you like to drink it? Do you mix it with anything or do you drink it straight?
Oh, I usually drink it straight, and the one I've been liking quite a bit right now has been the Kraken Black Label.
Right.
Usually I only have a shot of Jägermeister once every week at most.
I only occasionally drink, and when I usually do, it's either wine or rum and coke.
Speaking of which, before I head out of Indiana, I need to pick up some wine as a gift for my sister before heading home.
Well,
you're not allowed to buy outside of Indiana, or?
Listen, it's just she can get any wine in Pennsylvania at the state stores there, because Pennsylvania's liquor stores are a holdover from Prohibition. It's just I know I can get a local bottle of wine that's okay for $6 or $9, I think, at Walmart.
Well, and sometimes from state to state, the liquor tax can make a big difference. When I lived in Michigan, if I waited until we drove into Wisconsin to buy my bottle of whiskey, it was $2 cheaper in Wisconsin.
Well,
Wisconsin has a thing about taxation on beer. where all the taxations on all the hard liquors and wines have gone up on a regular basis. Beer, I think, I'm not sure when the last one was, but its tax amount is something that was set in the 60s or 70s or something like that, because they have so much, beer production in Wisconsin that they, don't want to tax their favorite son, so to speak. And so they get a bargain.
Yeah.
I don't even know if prohibition was even tried in Australia. I find it hard to believe it would have gotten anywhere.
I find it hard to believe it got anywhere in America, and yet it did.
We had an economy based off of rum when New South Wales was run off the Rum Corps, which was the British military who was in control at the time. They'd kind of like taken control away from the governor, I think, or the governor just let them run rampant. So yeah, we've got a probably not so healthy relationship with alcohol.
I've never seen a sober Australian.
See, I partied with Australians when I was in tech school in the Air Force, and those fuckers can fucking hang.
I can believe it.
I used to have a friend who was a professional factory race car driver in Germany, and she was
Factory race car?
known of the queen of the Nürburgring. And we brought her over to America one year to take part in our driving school and just give rides and stuff like that, little quick tips for people, but just mostly just to have a personality there. And we had been corresponding for years because I'd met her at a different event years before that. And her and her fiance who came along decided that they were going to drink the Americans under the table. And boy, did they ever.
Yeah, I'm sure that took a lot of work.
Oh man, they both of those characters were still absolutely completely lucid after most of us were just absolutely under the table puking. It was very impressive. God, that was a good night.
Well, remember, there's nothing Nietzsche couldn't teach you about the raising of the wrist. Socrates himself was particularly pissed.
Gross.
Yes, the drunken philosopher song.
Yeah. I don't know. I've always been acutely aware of that I have all the precursors for being an alcoholic and no explanation for why I'm not.
Lack of dedication.
Try harder, yeah.
That is great advice. I was going to say, I don't really think there's any reason to try harder at this point.
Well, it runs rampant in my family as it is.
One of the reasons I don't drink is because I realized in my teens that I had a predilection to become alcoholic. I loved it too much, and so I pretty much stopped just to protect myself.
Yeah, I didn't really drink much until later because I was a little bit worried about me ending up being an alcoholic since I have it on both sides of my family.
Yeah, well, I have no idea what a natural life expectancy is on my father's side of the family. because most of my uncles on that side were dead before the age I am now. And it was usually either directly from alcohol or an accident involving alcohol, like falling into farm machinery while they were drunk.
Then
Jeez.
whatever they died at is their average age.
Farm machinery is dangerous enough when you're not drunk.
And thanks to Republicans wanting to bring back the 19th century, we may be able to get in dangerous industrial machinery again.
Yay!
Oh, goody.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's,
I mean,
that's because replacing workers is much cheaper than upgrading machinery.
Yeah.
I don't think the coal mines are ever coming back the way they were. So,
Thankfully.
No. That was a huge con job that Trump pulled, and I don't know how anyone ever believed that was going to happen.
What's that?
Because people in the Appalachian mountains and states wanted coal to come back. They had jobs. They had secure jobs. And, well, I mean, frankly, Democrats kind of fucked them. But when you think about it in the long run, the Democrats saved them from, I don't know, dying in those mines, whether from methane leaks or whatever. I mean, people who are forced to live paycheck to paycheck think that way.
Mm.
So it's realistically not that hard to figure out. Unfortunately, a lot of wealthy people, which, let's face it, is the vast majority of people in our government, they can't fathom how people like us on this panel think.
Yeah.
So,
Wait,
yeah, I totally get how these now former coal miners have been duped. I get it.
But I'm pretty sure I can get how they think, because I grew up, well, I didn't grow up in coal country, but I grew up working poor. My father was a factory worker there. And it's like, it's like until you get more money, you have to think it's like, I need to make sure there's this constant supply or recurring supply. It has to be renewable. And I don't think even now most of us are beyond that. I mean, now I have some savings, a little bit, but it's still not that much.
I had some savings until my car died. Now I am owing several $1,000s on buying the new van.
Is it a Chrysler?
No, it's a Toyota.
I would suggest a Chrysler, but maybe Toyotas are just as reliable.
Well, my brother's a head mechanic at a dealership, and he had researched them and said that the drivetrain on this particular one pretty much is reliable to about 250,000 miles, so it's only halfway there.
But at this point, my car was not the top of the line, and I'm just hoping it makes it 3 more years.
Hey, Claire. Yeah, well, that's, and again, I am very grateful to all the people in the community that donated to allow us to buy this thing. It's just, even with the donations, we ran over budget, so I still owe my brother a few thousand on it. But that said, if it actually lives up to the reliability that people claim it has, and as little as I usually drive in a year, this actually has the potential to last us 10 years. Which is good, because it may take me that long to pay it off.
So whose kid is mewing?
I'm going to assume that was one of Bub's.
What's that?
We heard a kitty mewing somewhere.
It was probably one of mine.
Because my kitty's
I'm
right
not
over
sure which,
here.
honestly.
Now that she's decided to stop destroying my blind, she's napping right beside me.
Yep. Yeah, Sammy is laying on my leg.
You should consider yourself lucky that you have been blessed as such.
Oh yeah. No, this is the normal thing. He's laying on my leg, and the keyboard is across his butt. It's our normal agreement. Although
That's fair.
sometimes if he feels I've been on the computer too long, he will headbutt the keyboard out of my lap.
Hey, Athena is very helpful when I'm programming. She sits on the keyboard. She gets in front of the monitor.
She helped with the debugging?
Yeah, she hides the bugs so I can't see them.
No bugs in this code.
If you can't see the bugs, they don't exist.
Sammy likes to drape his arm over the 10 keypad on my keyboard and randomly be pressing keys over there. The fun part is if he moves around and starts randomly hitting function keys, and I have no idea what the fuck my computer is doing or how it got there.
Ooh.
I thought programming bugs existed in a superposition if you can't see them.
Heisenberg bugs?
Only in quantum computing.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Schrodinger bugs.
I do not know if quantum computing will ever be practical.
I think it's likely to only be useful for like the NSA and other such well-funded organizations.
I mean, there are also other things we can make computers out of. It's just electronics work the best. We can make mechanical computers. We can make digital.
Fluidic sounds.
I think we should make
like
sure
an
that every
interesting.
household has its own liquid nitrogen station and stuff, and they can have quantum computers and things.
I remember seeing something about that they were designing computer chips that were grown out of bacteria colonies.
You can make logic, as long as you can do a logic gate, you can make a computer.
You can do computing with biology, like with chemicals in a cell.
Yeah, that's what DNA computing basically is.
Yeah.
And then there's that other, well, that already exists, the organic computer. It's called a brain. A little more advanced than an average computer, but
it's more complicated, yes, but it's essentially just a fancy neural network. It doesn't really have the same type of technology as in your general computing.
Yeah, it doesn't use logic gates.
no,
There's been a lot
that's
of
pretty
stuff.
clear if you just watch behavior.
Uses fuzzy logic gates.
There's been a lot of stuff coming out that they're finding that trees actually use fungus as an internet.
As
That
a
trees
network,
are
yeah,
able to
for
pass signals.
communication.
Well, that some trees are able to pass signals to trees of the same species several miles away, and they determine that it's all chemical signals being sent through the fungus.
Oh, the mycelial network, yeah.
Yeah. It's also to trees of different species too, I believe.
Yeah, it's like all these people who, it's like, I remember like some psychologists getting excited about discussing AI, and we're like, and the people who study computer science, it's like, you realize this is just statistical modeling, right? And the computers aren't actually anywhere near like showing emotions.
No.
Basically, those fungi Hey, you're connecting to the roots of the plant and making them act sort of like a superorganism.
Yep.
Yeah. What's it called? A specific type of fungus that interacts with plant roots. I forget the name of them.
Well, when I was living in the Upper Peninsula, we were right on top of what some people have claimed was the world's largest organism that was colloquially known as the Humongous Fungus, that it's a fungal colony that takes up a couple of hectares.
Yep.
I don't know why I immediately thought of Inside Job.
What's that?
It's a Netflix animated cartoon.
Oh, I haven't seen it, unfortunately.
You're probably thinking of rhizome. So probably
Mycorrhizal fungus is the word I was looking.
Yeah. Okay, mycorrhizal. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that Inside Job is worth watching if you haven't.
Sorry, Bob.
Top...
I didn't see it come back. You were getting hidden under the toolbar.
Do you know what type of fungus it was? That's the giant fungus, Purple?
I don't remember offhand. I'd have to look it up again.
Lord.
But I know that it basically it covered the area of like 3 or 4 counties up there.
Yeah, a giant mitochondrial. Oh, fucking yeah.
Yep, Titan Uranus has it.
No.
Yeah, that's the one that's in the roots, but I'm thinking of something different.
I just want to say no one on this panel was paid to say Titan's name. Because he actually loves
Who's
it. Who's
not paid to say Satan's name? Because I'll do it.
Titan.
Regardless.
Titan Uranus.
The giant.
Oh, Titan Uranus.
I have no problem with it because I put that disclaimer. I put the disclaimer at the start of the stream about there being adult language, so I don't care.
You just have to make it past like 17 minutes and you're fine.
The largest fungus would be a mycelial network of fungus, of basically clonal fungus. Largest living fungus may be a honey fungus of the species Armillaria oysteria.
Are you sure it's not Armillaria gallica?
No. Mushroom of this type in the Malheur National Forest in the Blue Mountains of East Oregon, US, was found to be the largest fungal colony in the world, spanning 8.9 kilometers squared or 2,200 acres of area. Organism estimated to be 2,400 years old.
Ow!
Yeah, well, that's Oregon, so that wasn't the one from Upper Michigan.
Well,
I heard the one in Upper Michigan, it was like pretty much covers the entire north section of the state. That's hundreds of square miles.
Well, maybe depending on how the next election goes, it may be time to reconsider my plans to just head out to the Pacific Northwest and park near the Canadian border.
Do it. It's probably safer, honestly.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get a Canadian who'll give me sanctuary once I get across the border.
I honestly don't think the cult of personality that Trump has can outlast Trump.
But won't they just have some new whack job bar writers to pop up in his place?
Ron DeSantis.
Well, Ron DeFascist really doesn't have the charisma Trump does.
Right.
Ron DeSantis doesn't have the charisma, but even so, MAGA has been split into about 2/3 by my estimation, with one of those thirds following DeSantis now and the other two sticking with Trump. And if Trump loses the the primary, it'll split the vote because Trump plans on running independent.
Yep.
So, you know what? Honestly, as much as I hate Biden and the Democrats, because let's face it, they're all center right, even the ones who purport to be leftist, I will suck it up and vote for Biden again, just to make sure Trump doesn't become president again. Because let's face it, in the next intervening 4 years of presidency, Trump's probably going to die. Let's face it, he's a sack of shit and he looks like it.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a nice new boogeyman to worry about.
Well,
Yeah,
And they have to
but
suck
I
up
mean,
and-
we won't have to worry about that kind of charisma, and my camera sucks right now.
Okay.
don't worry about it.
I'm not Biden's biggest fan, but he has been doing some things well. And one of the things that has been rather quiet that I haven't really seen being covered much is that Biden has appointed more federal judges than Trump had at this point in his term. And Biden is actually getting a lot of them who are not corporate lawyers. He's actually getting a lot of them who were like the defense attorneys and the public defenders. So people who actually, have made their career on defending the average citizen against corporations.
Well,
That sounds good.
Unfortunately, there's not much he can do with the Supreme Court right now unless ethics charges are brought up on Thomas, which I really think he should be disbarred at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, it doesn't get up to the Supreme Court, but, it's helping, like, the district courts a lot.
Or some lunatic decides to do target practice.
We can hope that a meteorite will hit the Supreme Court building.
I have actually wondered why we haven't seen anything like that happen. And, not just long before Trump, I was wondering why somebody didn't come up with that.
The meteorite thing or the...
Just in general, bombing the Supreme Court or something.
Be careful saying
right-wing because domestic terrorists in this country are fortunately all right-wing. Mostly.
Yeah, well, like I said, I was questioning this like way back when George W. was in office.
Well, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying if I was assigned to be a bodyguard for one of these sorts of people and I saw somebody taking aim, I would definitely make sure my shoes were tied.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the only left-wing domestic terrorism we've actually witnessed was the bombing of the building on UW-Madison's campus back in the 1970, I think.
And you would be wrong. A lot of it doesn't get a lot of attention, but there were people like Ted Kaczynski, Unabomber, and there were groups like the Animal Liberation Front and the Earth Liberation Front, which are a little...
I thought Ted was right-wing.
Kaczynski? No, he's left-wing.
Yeah, and I suppose that people would consider PETA a leftist organization.
I
Yeah.
don't know if I consider PETA a domestic terrorist, though.
Well, they have been known to fund domestic terrorists.
Well, they have also been known to, do things like raids on scientific laboratories.
Curse at their cats and watch what happens to you. PETA, people eating tasty animals.
As soon as lab-grown meat becomes viable, I'll consider giving up steak.
Yep.
And up to standard too.
But I'm too picky about being the autistic trait. Too picky about my eating to ever go vegan or vegetarian. It's just not going to happen.
Well, the whole thing about the cow farts contributing to climate change.
Giddy.
Which is true.
Yep. And about just all the cattle ranching and that, all the environmental impact that's having. I think it means that we're just not eating them fast enough.
There you go.
Hey, Skits.
No. Well, I'm a hop out. My own fuck Elon Musk live stream is about to start here in about 5 minutes.
Okay, did you already put a timer on that one?
So I hopefully we'll see at least some of you there. Yeah. That I figured maybe around 12:30 be when we'd be calling it quits. I didn't want to overlap too much. But yeah.
Usually I go at least 2 hours, so I would be going another half an hour usually.
Oh, well, half an hour still. I can drink for half an hour.
Well, if we wrap up in half an hour, I'll swing over there next.
Yeah.
Right on. I've already sent StreamYard links in the relevant group chats that I'm in.
Okay.
All right. Well,
yeah,
thanks
we
for
should
having
coordinate. I wouldn't have had a problem passing off to you.
Yeah. Well,
Next
I'll
time.
be going in half an hour, so.
Yep.
Yeah. Show me then, I guess. I'll see y'all later around.
Yep. Good night.
Night.
Oh, yeah. Unless people just want to head over there. Do we still have a conversation going here?
Yeah. Everybody fall asleep? I just get completely.
Or are people just not drunk enough to live stream tonight?
All I had was eggnog without alcohol.
Yeah, no, like I said, when I'm running it, I don't, so I haven't gotten into mine yet tonight either.
No, I don't usually drink tonight. I usually drink tomorrow night.
Yeah, well, since I'm basically retired now, weekends, weekdays doesn't make much of a difference anymore.
And I'll probably have extra this weekend.
The thing about being retired is drinking at, say, 8 a.m. Well, I'm going to watch the Today Show, but I'm first going to get schnockered.
Yeah, no, I haven't been doing that. I still have not gotten to drinking before I have dinner.
I'm not sure if I'm really all that different drunk.
Athena, are you after my ham sandwich?
I have had mornings that I've, afternoons actually, that, I've logged on to Twitter just to find out if there was anything that I need to apologize for. And, so far I've got a good record on that. I haven't really found that anybody was really significantly upset with me when I've been drinking, so.
I think I tend to get more honest.
Is anyone logging on to Twitter just to see the stupid stuff Musk has done?
No, Twitter's still perfectly useful.
That doesn't mean Musk hasn't done stupid stuff.
Well, it's kind of a given.
Like I said,
disabling 80% of the microservices without figuring out which ones were actually needed. That one was hilarious.
Yeah, Twitter's always been a cesspool. It's just a different type of cesspool now.
What makes Twitter more of a cesspool than other social medias?
Nothing.
Because my impression is that whenever there are humans in enough quantities, there's going to be toxicity.
I think that Twitter is a bit less of an echo chamber than most of them, so that you actually have people with conflicting opinions who are engaging each other more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Well, because on Twitter, it's not just the people, it's not just the people in the group that you've established who are seeing your posts.
I tend to see people insulting people more on Twitter.
Yep.
If you want to see what Twitter is going to become in not very long, go on TikTok. TikTok does not moderate anywhere near what they should be. They're more than happy to let seriously dangerous let right wingers on, spewing their hatred, and
they're going to do what every social media
trolling people, doxing them, and actually showing up at their houses with weapons and all kinds of stuff. TikTok is not a
that
safe
would definitely be a place, a line that's being crossed there.
Yeah.
Well, TikTok really became a place for the fanatical right-wing people to go to, just because there wasn't being any controls on it.
Social media tends to go through the pattern of it's a free-for-all until the company's finances are threatened by public disapproval, and then they start cracking down on things. Like YouTube used to be a lot freer and, in my opinion, better and less corporate.
Sorry.
I hope you get to feeling better there.
I'm sorry to hear that, Kitty. I had that a couple days ago.
Guess there's something going around.
And had to pay to have my car cleaned out because of it.
Ew.
Yeah, you remember the point outside the car.
Well, I thought I could make it to the side of the road coming back from Indianapolis.
Damn.
I know you were asking about how to clean it out of your car. I didn't really have details on how it had happened.
Yeah, that stomach bug is nasty. Short-lived, though, thankfully.
I hope I don't end up with it.
You already got it. It's called DeSantis.
Listen, Ron DeFascist will eventually die.
Yeah, he's way too young to.
Yeah, he's almost my age.
I have no idea how old that is.
I'm 43. I think he's how old is he?
He is really.
He's 44. Yeah, he's only a year older than me.
Seriously, hate-filled person.
Well, he's also a Florida man, so it's only a matter of time before he's taken out in a bizarre accident involving another Florida man or Florida woman.
Mm-hmm. We can only hope.
Oh, he looked pretty hot in that Dallas Cowboys cheerleader uniform.
Well, thanks to all the medical misinformation down there, Florida has now reached a 10-year high in the percentage of children who are unvaccinated.
Yay.
That was one of the news items I stumbled across today. More and more people are deciding that the kids don't really need the polio vaccine.
Well, you never see it around, so what's the worry?
If that's true, we should start investing in iron lungs.
We're starting to see it come back.
Yep.
Yeah, no surprise.
Well, it was like, whatever. This started really like 15 years ago about the anti-vax thing.
Maybe I should invest in baby coffins.
And it was like a year or two after it became popular, the instance of measles in the U.S. had gone from what was normally something like 2,000 cases across the country in a year to 2,500 cases just in the city of New York.
Well, the whole thing's based on bad science anyway, and
Yep.
I don't get the idea. It's like, oh yeah, being autistic is so terrible. It's like most cases of autism are moderate to mild. And do you think your kid would rather be a long dead child or an autistic adult when he grows up?
Yeah.
Well, I credit the autism with my brain being just enough different that the church's indoctrination didn't take hold. So, on that theory, I would rather be autistic than Catholic.
I think, not sure I credit that with me not being Mormon anymore. But
yeah. Like Kitty says, though. Yeah, what do you want? An autistic kid or a dead kid?
Being autistic isn't so bad. It has its perks.
Oh, yeah.
Well, most of them are thinking like, because it used to, or a lot of them are older, are thinking like Rain Man or just like barely functional. It's like, no, most autism, you're functional. And
well, and not being able to do the social interactions is not as big a deal because now it is possible to just stay home and use the internet.
I also want to say something to business leaders who are trying to make IT people and computer programmers more like them. You are the ones that need to change here. Okay?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Birth is just a total crapshoot,
Yeah.
It's totally by chance. If your parents fuck tomorrow instead of today, you're not going to exist. It's just so totally random.
Yeah, there are all sorts of random factors depending on what your mother does while you're in the womb,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of things she's exposed to without her control.
And a
Who
lot
her
of
parents had sex with.
Who they're,
Okay, night, Kitty.
Genetics is a bitch.
Night, Kit.
Yep. Yeah, and basically, the more they find out about DNA, the more we realize that we don't understand it at all. They thought originally when they mapped the human genome that they were going to be able to identify what caused certain things to turn on and off. And they're like, oh no, it's not like a single switch. This is way more complicated than we expected.
Well, some things are directly caused by genetic diseases some things are directly caused by faulty
specific genetic mutations.
Yeah.
Some things like autoimmune diseases can be triggered through epigenetic factors that you may be prone to, like Hashimoto's disease is a good example. It's like, I have Hashimoto's disease, which really isn't that bad. It's just because the name it sounds worse than it actually is. It's fairly easy to treat.
What exactly is that?
It's an autoimmune disease that causes hypothyroidism. It's the most common autoimmune disease in the United States. But my sister doesn't have it. So likely, if you know someone in the United States that has hypothyroidism, they have Hashimoto's disease. And a lot of, it's like my dad's still not accepting. It's like, hey, we know how trans people are caused now. And it's not abuse. Because my dad will not bother to upgrade his science since the 1970s.
Jeez.
He himself was 70. And
remember, if you learned about science in the 70s, you were actually learning about science from the 50s. because it takes that long to get into textbooks.
Yeah,
into
that's
school.
a valid point.
Let alone
I
school
remember-
textbooks, yeah.
I remember going back to like college and taking biology as like the science at Ivy Tech, and I was reading the textbook. And I'm like, that can't possibly be right. It's like birds are reptiles, and I have to turn that light off. But then I looked it up. It's like birds are reptiles now.
Yep.
Dinosaurs.
Changed.
No,
Well-
that's not correct, because nobody has stood there and definitively said that dinosaurs were reptiles.
Yeah. Diapsid.
Hollywood always shows them, but there's no evidence that says that they are reptiles.
Are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure that they did, at least initially described them as
Yeah.
reptilian creatures by looking at the bone structure, etc.
Yeah, and that's what I learned too growing up. But I've heard different recently, meaning within the last five years or so. I couldn't quote the source because it just wasn't that significant to me. I can tell you it was some kind of documentary, because that's where
Dinosaurs are
Mm.
diapsids, so they would be reptiles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are reptiles based on the skull characteristics.
And we're synapsids, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, but what they basically believe is the ancestor to all dinosaurs was a Triassic reptile.
Well, I think the point Jenny may have been trying to make is reptile is not really a taxonomic term anymore.
Yeah,
Well, it's not a very good, well-defined biological thing cladistically anyway.
well, and actually all of those terms have gotten increasingly squishy.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a gradual progression. There aren't any set delineations. So, you know, even to say which animals belong to which family gets real foggy.
Species, etc., are basically constructs just to help us understand animal life more. Well, not animal life more.
Yeah. Yeah, because nature really doesn't care about being that organized.
No. There's always going to be an exception in nature.
Yep. Yeah, so we're always going to find animals with characteristics that make it look like they could fit into any one of three different groups.
Like
And we aren't
when
gonna
they discovered
necessarily be able to trace where they came from.
like when they discovered monotremes in Australia that
Yeah.
look like mammals but lay eggs. And
Well, a huge one is they still haven't figured out where turtles came from.
from other turtles.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as they can't really
Family
figure out
tree.
what branch of the reptile family turtles are branching off from.
yeah, because it was really early.
Who was that creation? Oh, it was oddly
Well,
enough,
you know,
Cindy.
and what kind of a freaky animal starts out with an internal skeleton and then decides to grow it on the outside?
It's not on the outside. It's just the shell is part of the skeletal system. Things attached to it on the inside, but that doesn't mean it's on the outside. It's just the way it's constructed. It's
Yeah, the shell is actually the rib cage.
well, it's actually more than that, but
I remember.
it's where the legs attach, and it's pretty much where everything attaches.
Actually, I remember recently getting into an argument with a creationist about which came first, the chicken or the egg. And everyone in the chat was like the egg by several million years. And it's like, no, but who came first? It's like, and they're all like, the egg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also that, you know, significant genetic alterations are more likely to occur in the embryo than in an adult.
Because I don't think she didn't specify chicken egg, first off.
If you specify chicken, it gets a little bit fuzzier as to whether you're finding it by whether what's coming out of it or where it came out of.
Yeah,
Well,
but
then it's a question of when did we define it as a chicken as
Yeah.
opposed to any other wild bird?
it's still more likely that some earlier type of bird laid an egg that hatched into a chicken
But we know eggs
Yep.
predate birds.
No, I think it's more likely that people captured some wild bird that they found quite edible and relatively easy to take care of if they captured it, and over time they hybridized it like people have done to virtually every species we've ever touched.
Well, the chicken came from the wild old fowl.
Southeast Asia.
So did a cow. They weren't born cows or created cows 100 million years ago.
I find one of the most interesting stories for domestication to be the house cat.
Yes.
It hasn't been domesticated, but semi-domesticated.
It domesticated itself at least twice.
Yes. I mean, we didn't go out and seek the best held granaries, and farmers started feeding them. That's really how that happened.
Yep.
There's domestic cats as far back as Egypt.
Oh, yeah.
Is, as I know.
It's before that, tens of thousands of years ago.
Yeah. When they were building the pyramids in Egypt, there was definitely evidence that cats were domesticated then.
Mm-hmm. They made really good leveling devices. If one of the stones is just a little off, you jack it up, stuff a cat in there, lower it back down, and it crushes just enough.
It's terrible.
Yeah, I know.
She is. She's horrible about animals.
No, cats.
No.
Never think about that about a dog.
But yeah, it's like...
Yeah, but you've gone on the same way about small rodents.
We started storing... And cats are good at killing those.
Cats were only domesticated once, they've discovered recently.
Rodents are a pest, just like cats.
Cats eat less of your grain.
Well, that's why we got along so well with cats, because they were eating the rodents and we weren't interested in eating the rodents.
I think I put it this way. Dogs are like the child you adopted. Cats are like the college roommate that moves in with you.
I've never heard it that way, but that's appropriate, yes. I actually got one cat that way.
I am so happy I never had to experience a college roommate. I should specify, in a dorm room. I had roommates in college, but we had a flat and lots of room to not have to deal with each other.
Oh, flatmates, as opposed to in the same room.
Well, going back to college as an adult, it's not a problem for me, but I did have to attend a conference for an honor society I'm a member of, and despite we were supposed to be in a hotel, but they decided just to put us in the University of Kentucky dorm rooms instead.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I got the dorm room to myself, but it's like that entire weekend when we weren't like going to like the different panels and stuff, it's like we went back to their dorm rooms and just slept there.
Yeah, I only had one instance in my life where I wound up sharing an apartment with somebody that I hadn't known for a considerable time before that. And yeah, that proved to be a horrendous mistake.
I lived in dorms in Australian University, but we didn't have to share bedrooms at all. It was like one person a room, and it was just shared bathrooms.
Yeah, well, I never really went to college, so I never had that experience.
And going to college when you're older is just a hugely different experience.
Yeah.
Well, I could only afford a technical institute, so.
And technical institutes normally don't have on-campus accommodation, do they?
Nor do community colleges.
Community bathrooms.
Yeah. Well, I wound up living with my sister and her husband in their spare room while I went through the technical institute.
How was that? What was it like for you? Living with them?
Yeah. It was kind of awkward, but then again, in retrospect, there were a couple of things because I hadn't been properly diagnosed yet at that point, so.
Right.
you're talking about technical institutes. I know for a fact because it came from somebody from Porsche that there's such a desperate need for qualified mechanics nowadays that manufacturers have. I haven't heard about official other manufacturers, but Porsche has started taking people who had interest in learning how to fix stuff and get them into Porsche school. That they would send you to school. They will pay for your room and board, pay for your travel, pay for your books, and there's no tuition. And it's like a almost a half or three quarter of a year course offerings, and you come out as certified levels of certification, which means you get paid more at the dealership.
Well, we do need more tradespeople, but
oh yeah.
Yeah. Well,
we also need more academics. Well, not necessarily academics. We need more people who understand engineers. We never have enough
so short of
programmers.
people for a couple of industries around here that they were actually offering a completely free tuition to train people to be welders at the Technical Institute here.
Oh, Indiana will Indiana will pay any adult to get a technical certificate now because they're short. Unfortunately, Indiana needs to extend that to any associate's degree. But
if you're young and male or female and you want to earn a six-figure income, go become a welder. Get trained and certified. You will make hand over fist. There's such a demand for certified welders.
That also depends where in the country you are. You're not going to get six figures as a welder around here.
Is the lack of tradespeople around because university has been pushed too much at the expense of technical schools?
No,
I think it's been a couple things. College has definitely been pushed very, very strongly in the 60s and 70s. Everybody had to go to college, but it's also at the same time been the social rejection of blue collar work, that you were somehow less of a person, less intelligent, less capable, less interesting, less socially integratable if you are a blue collar worker versus some elite college educated person, and it stuck, and it's now we're paying the price for that. We should have never been putting down people who are blue collar or in the trades.
That sort of age is fucking disgusting.
The skill level that a plumber has to have is unreal. People think of the plumber, he comes in and he clears the drain or something. Yeah, well, hire somebody other than a plumber to build your plumbing system in a brand new house and watch it fuck up completely.
Hey,
well, that's a caveat.
I used to do that.
I think we need to add a caveat to this. We do need tradespeople, but we also need people in their ivory towers. And I think, judging, and one profession you also need a lot of right now is teachers. Because we've demonized teachers quite a bit too.
Yeah.
Need to be paying them and taking care of them better.
Well, that's another point is nobody is getting paid properly for their skill level.
Yeah.
Nobody is.
We need the right-wing politicians to stop claiming that all teachers are groomers.
We need the right-wing politicians to stop claiming that labor is the worst expense that any business has. Labor is the essential what the business is.
Worse, I believe the claim economics, if you study, is the largest expense any business has, and usually it is.
Look, we need to be arming all those groomers.
Oh, good.
Labor is definitely the biggest chunk of expense for a business. There's no doubt about that.
Well,
but it is labor that creates the product, creates the service, to generate the income, to make the profit for the company so the rich guy can get richer.
Listen, these are people who want people to work in the mines, or not work in the mines, work in factories from like 12 to like death. They want to go back to the 19th century, and it's like people don't want to go back to that. First of all, people hate factory work. I don't know if these industrialists realize that, but people hate factory work.
Did you hear what Kia just got busted for?
Drugs?
No,
drugs?
it was a red state down south. I forget if it was Alabama or Mississippi or which one it was. Child labor in a factory.
Yep.
Cheers.
And at the same time, people like Musk pretend they're pushing for a Star Trek society, while at the same time suggesting, like, what was it? Not that his Mars thing is ever going to get off the ground because he doesn't know what he's doing.
Maya,
Indentured servitude on. Sorry.
Maya, you're 100% correct.
Yeah. What Maya's saying here, that they're trying to make it so that only the elite can afford to send their kids to school.
The overall plan of the right wing is to privatize everything that the government does, so that all of it is in the hands of the rich fucks, so they can get richer off of our tax dollars.
Well, the one thing we need to do, because we know it's a failure now, is stop privatizing prisons.
Yes.
Yes. Which is basically where they get a lot of their slaves.
Well, they also need people to fight their wars. Keep in mind that the military is seen as like a route to the middle class still, which I need to be careful here. It's like the military is not a bad option for people either, but
yeah, but
it shouldn't be
forced into it as it seeming like the only way to get out of poverty.
Or the main way.
Slave labor is just as prevalent in state-run prisons as it is in private.
And we need to get rid of the 13th
Amendment
loophole.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's always been the case, even before privates existed.
Yeah,
in fact, the difference, the variety of jobs that they have in prison now has increased exponentially over the decades.
But I think
when you call a call center, there's a good chance you're talking to one in a prison.
But I think,
disgusting.
or India. But I think
but is it? I mean,
no, talking to a prisoner is not disgusting. What's disgusting is essentially making slaves of people who go to prison, to be clear.
From my look at it, I don't think it's bad to have people in prison working. I think what makes it bad is that the fact that they pay them 43 cents an hour.
Yeah.
If they pay them an actual wage, everybody needs a job,
Yeah. No, I have no problems with there being work and education as long as it's not abusive.
And a lot of them are forced into things they're not necessarily suited to or qualified for in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's basically a loophole in the 13th Amendment that allows slavery in prison.
Yeah. We got real slavery except in the prisons.
Wasn't it also part of the Dred Scott decision?
The 13th Amendment was passed after the Dred Scott decision.
Yeah, but it still didn't cover all the loopholes.
Well, this loophole was deliberately written into the 13th Amendment.
And did you hear the good news though? The government, in the Capitol building, there's statues of all these different judges and officials in our history, and there's a statue of the judge who made the Dred Scott decision, and they have decided that statue is going to be removed, which I consider a victory.
I'm not familiar with the Dred Scott decision.
It basically was a decision that said that black people have no reason to expect any sort of civil rights from white people, period.
It basically said escaped slaves could be returned to their owners.
Yeah.
Right.
Even if overturning a previous federal law that said if they got north of, I think, the line from the Missouri Compromise, They were free and could not be returned. It was one of the many bad decisions that led up to our Civil War.
Right.
Oh, it was such a bad decision. God. It's humiliating that our country would have done that, but
Hi.
I'm assuming. Hi, Sammy.
Sammy has decided he needs to be on the arm of the chair where the trackball goes. That is making it difficult for me to continue to run things on the computer here.
But coming back
Does
to
Sammy like playing with the trackball?
No. He's pretty much ignoring it and probably would have sat on it if I didn't move it.
coming back to an early topic, we really need to consider what each student, what they in high school, what their particular talents and interests are, and say, and it's clear some people it's like, okay, college is not for you. Maybe you should consider a trade school, or hey, you seem to or maybe the military is the best choice for you, and we need to direct people into these areas. Rather than just the default assumption is just because it's also been required, it's like you need a college degree just to get a good job. That's just been the rule for a while.
that'd be great as long as the people who are doing the counseling and the assignments and recommendations to the student aren't racist and selecting people that are black to go into the trades and the white people to go into the colleges. And I would expect there's a high degree of that even today.
Hey, Ox.
Unfortunately, I don't know how you're going to stop that. And even when we thought AI was going to be impartial, which now we get figured out, it's like people are going to program their biases into it. It's like, I don't know how that wasn't really just obvious, but yeah. I mean, we can program the biases out of it when we find them, but
I saw this experiment that was run with very young children, like first grade, second grade, third grade, kind of things. They did, various grades and people, and they would take the kids and they would give them a sheet of paper, typing size sheet of paper, and it had an identical illustration shape wise of a little child in like 5 different images. One was Caucasian white, one was maybe a little darker, like a Caucasian's got a really deep tan, then one who's light brown, medium brown, black. And they would ask the child, there were no words on the paper at all, and the interviewer would ask the child, which is the bad child? Guess what they picked? Okay, these were all white children that they interviewed. Guess what they picked? And who's the ugly child? Guess who they picked? Who's the child that you would never want to talk to? Guess who they picked? It was so obvious that even at these young ages, these children have been absolutely brainwashed into racism that it's going to be with them forever.
But by the time they're 5 years old, just because of the amount of media they've been subjected to, and the parents' attitudes.
Hope. There is hope, because when they gave the same test to some older children who are getting towards 10, 11, 12, getting towards middle school and stuff, they were asked a question like that, and they would go, they're all the same. It's nobody's ugly because of any of this. If somebody's ugly, they're ugly, but it has nothing to do with any of this. And so there is a certain amount of hope, but
I think I need to see that test.
No, I know the at least the kind of study that Jenny's referring to.
I'll try to dig it up. It was a videotape, so I don't know where I'll get it, but I'll try to find it for you.
Am I remembering correctly that when they gave the same test to black kids that the black kids chose the black kids as the bad ones as well.
Yeah. Yep.
If that's the case, it might not be what you think it is.
Well, no, at least the conclusions, from what I read of it, or still that, even the black kids were getting the message that criminals were usually black. Oh. Well, okay. I didn't want to run this too long tonight anyway, because I've got to try to get as much sleep as I can before the marathon this weekend.
Oh.
So, why don't we shut down here and everybody go pop over to Bub's stream?
Yeah, let me get the link in the...
I got it here.
Oh, okay.
Put it in Twitter. Well, I can probably find it. No, just put it in Twitter so I can get it.
Oh, we'll put it in the side chat right here in the YouTube side chat.
All right, maybe I can copy it.
I can send it to you on Twitter also.
Yeah, I'll just stick it in there.
Oh, hey, just a quick side question for everybody in the chat and the panel. How many of you have started to move to like Mastodon? Maybe you're not exclusive on it right now or anything, but that you're starting to experiment with it and see what it's like and that sort of stuff. I'm just real curious. And I ask because I have, and I'm finding it to be very, very nice.
Well, I think for people like Andrew and myself, we just want to see how Musk is going to ruin Twitter. But we also think he's not going to. We think it's going to survive Musk. Musk just doesn't know what he's doing.
I don't know. I've so far had headache after headache with trying to get Mastodon to work.
Yeah,
I'm on Mastodon, but I'm only use it as a backup for if Twitter does fail and concentrate mainly on Twitter.
Well, one thing I've heard about Mastodon is that you visualize the Fediverse as a tree, and Mastodon is just one of the branches on the tree. There's lots of others. Each one of the instances that you see is a different piece of software that somebody has put together to be part of that Fediverse. And so there's some that run very well and some that run like shit. And so if you're having trouble with one of the instances, move to another one. And
so I have to keep creating account after account on the same thing.
Well, it's not the same thing. They're different servers.
I kept the same account, and I just joined another server as well.
So if we don't join all the same server, we're basically still scattered.
Well, you should.
No.
Except you're all connected. It's just not as conveniently connected as Twitter. And I don't really even know why it feels that way, because you don't automatically see everybody in your group on Twitter when you're out in the main street.
Well, I must be on a really shitty Mastodon server because I can't seem to do anything with it.
Yeah,
even do cross-platform stuff with other Mastodon people who are on the server.
This is a huge topic to be picking up.
Anyway, yes, we're trying to sign off.
So, does anybody have anything they want to plug before we go?
Well, I still have that microscope video I did this past week, so we can go check that out if you haven't.
Yep.
While I'm working on this text adventure game, which I may never finish, if you want to check out some video games I have finished that are actually video games, check out my itch.io page at sinisterporpoise2.itch.io, where you can download Petty Theft Moped Terre Haute Stories and a game called The Valkyrie's Tale. But until then, remember everyone, be excellent to each other. Hi, Athena. And so long, and thanks for all the fish.
Yep. And of course, this weekend we will be doing the annual Christmas Marathon, which will be starting at 5 a.m. Central Time on Saturday morning and be running until 5 a.m. on Monday morning.
And Purple and I are going to be doing a lot of time, because there's a number of slots that just didn't get filled, and so we're going to be in there. We would love to have people as on the panel, and even if you're usually in the chat, consider coming on and being in the chat.
And anytime you can come in there, there are not just me, but there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be running streams looking for people to be on their panels. And it's all going to be kind of, quiet and low key. We're trying to avoid anything controversial because we know with the holiday that most of the audience is probably already going to be stressed up or depressed anyway. So.
Oh, I might as well plug this then for someone else. Christopher Mowdy and In Time aren't doing this on Christmas and Christmas Eve, but they're doing something similar on the 29th, I think.
Okay.
And I may take a slot yet. It's just I need to know where I'm going to be.
Hey, Randy. We were just wrapping up here, and we're all going to pop over to Bub's stream, which I'll throw Bub's link in there one more time. So with that, I'd just like to thank all the people who helped support me.
Oh, hello, Ox. I'm sorry I missed you. I haven't been paying attention to the chat. And Mark.
Yeah, Ox just came in a little bit ago, too.
And Maya, of course, I got you. And Harmonica Man, hi. And somebody named PurpleRhymesWithOrange, hi. And that's all that I can go back to and see.
Yep. Well, I'd just like to thank everybody who supports me. Skits Crasher and Kitty just blew through here. Excuse me. And Vonrek and Dog, the Lavender Lady, Robert X, and Greg Hartwick. Appreciate y'all helping me keep things going here. So with that, we will wish you all a good night, and let's all pop over and raid Bub's stream.
Hey, right.
Good night.
Good night, all. Love you. You're why we do